Okay, so welcome everybody. The time is 7:40 p.m. January 21st, 2017. Um, Welcome to tonight's workshop. It's Community of Inquiry. Community of Inquiry. However, today we're going to be focusing on social presence, cognitive presence, and teacher presence. As we get started, go ahead and turn off all your electronics and find some space to block yourself out from a lot of distractions. I just had to actually run from my apartment, which is very close to campus, over to campus because for some reason our modem decided it needed to get reset right around 6:50. So I'm happy I found an empty classroom. So for the quality check, I'm going to have you guys go down to the whiteboard and grab the draw tool, so one of the pencil tools, change the color to one of your favorite colors, and give me a check mark under the headphones if you guys can hear me. Okay, and give me a check mark under the play and record button here if you guys can hear me as well. Well, if not, if you guys can hear me, if you guys can see the recording button up in the top right corner. And lastly, give me a check under this picture of the slide here if you can see the slide that reads quality check. Okay, great. Okay, so for today's learning objectives, after viewing this workshop, students will be able to paraphrase the idea of community of inquiry, differentiate between social, cognitive, and teaching presence, and understand the role that Understand by Design, or the UBD template, has in ensuring you're creating a successful educational experience for your students. So community of inquiry, a framework used for the purpose of creating an educational experience that both monitors and manages meaningful learning through collaboration. Just like we discussed last week, it's really the idea of how when the internet was created, it was a great way of sharing knowledge. As you can see kind of from the picture here, we're literally a click or an email or any type of message away from being in another country, another city, another state, just at the click of a mouse, really. So it really opened up a lot for educators and even learners to really communicate and develop and create better understandings of different topics. So from this previous slide, I have activity for you. Let me go ahead and make sure that the polling type is correct. So which serves best as a way of paraphrasing the idea of the COI, Community of Inquiry Framework? A group of individuals who use discourse and reflection in order to make personal meaning and understanding. B, using groupthink to come to an agreement. C, using the internet as a means to discuss information. D, interpersonal connections used to develop, to create and develop new ideas. Or E, none of the above. So go ahead and select the letter right under where your name is. Okay, and I went ahead and answered myself, but yes, the correct answer was A. Like I said before, COI is a way for people to just really discuss different ideas and different topics based off their own experiences and communicate that with each other to really be able to reflect and develop what things might mean, specifically, of course, given the different situations as well. So the COI framework, a group of individuals who use discourse and reflection in order to make personal meaning and understanding. As you can see here, the whole COI framework is based off the idea of creating a successful and an immersive and an engaging educational experience for your learners. And as you can see at the different places where these the three ideas intersect, there are going to be it's like the overall arching idea between the two. So between social and cognitive, it's supporting discourse, so giving learners the opportunity to discuss and sometimes argue and just sit and really think like their own opinion on what things might mean. Between social and teaching, it's all about setting climate, so creating an environment for the students where that type of discussion is valid and is able for them to really happen. And then between teaching and cognitive, it's all about selecting content. That's going to relate, again, as I said in the objectives, to the UBD template, understanding by design. That's where you pick information or you pick activities or different ways for your students to interact with each other and the information so that they're getting the most out of their experience. So social presence is establishing an environment for learners that supports risk-free expression and encourages collaboration. Just like in the previous activity, the example of polling here on Blackboard, where I asked a question, not everybody was able to give their own opinion. Of course, we all selected the right answers, but if there was a situation where maybe there might have been some disagreement, it would have been a great opportunity for you guys to hop on and actually discuss that. So I would like the two of you to, I guess you guys can raise your hands and I'll just go in that order, but give me an example of where this course and discussion really helped you out, either with a class or at work. Okay, Bernie, I'll start with you.
Well, I'll just relate to my classroom. I think social presence and how, the freedom of expression actually gives. We try to attempt to have open-ended discussions that require questions. Our discussions are posed as a situation, and sometimes we flip that situation and say, all right, how do you actually feel about this? And we take an anonymous survey, and then we tell them if they actually felt, one way, we make them think the other way. And it actually brought in a lot of great discussions, and it formed that expression, in an environment online that made it feasible and work, and the students really liked that engagement.
Okay, great, thank you. And Nancy?
There we go, sorry. Yeah, actually in a lot of the classes that I've been in, it's very much a case of you don't attack the person. I mean, if you don't particularly care for a statement that they've made, it's always about the information. Statements are kept towards that, not I think you're an idiot is not appropriate. But some of the things we've done for interaction has been like you just turn around and you only give certain members of the group information, or you've got one group that's got a piece of information, another group's got another piece of information. So now they've got to get into a discussional dialogue about well, hey, well, I know this. Well, no, actually, I've got this other thing over here that you didn't know. Now, how does that affect your thinking?
Right, I actually like the idea of having group work where not everybody has all of the information or the same information. That way, they're really forced to work together, because I know sometimes it's a situation where it's easier for some people to just take up a load of the work and others kind of fall behind. So they're all not getting the same experience, but them having to go back and forth and actually sit and talk with each other and discuss things for the sake of their grade and also learning information is a great way to really enforce social presence in the classroom. Then cognitive presence. From the practical inquiry model, there are 4 phases used to structure a course, allowing learners to develop meaning and confirm understanding. So here the 4 phases are the triggering phase, exploration phase, integration phase, and the resolution phase. The 4 phases are really how you want to structure your lessons, so that not only are you making sure that you're keeping students engaged throughout and at each level there's a certain amount of understanding they're supposed to come away with, but you also do it just for the sake of really organization. Something that I've learned, and not even something I've learned from using this, is how much I actually use this already in a lot of the work I do with students. So for example, the triggering phase, you want to start off with an activity or something interesting just to get them kind of focused on what exactly it is you're going to be doing. So something I'm working on right now with some students is percentages. So we've been talking about stocks and different things like that. So I just showed them how a lot of the social media that they use, what owning stock in that, how much it would cost to own stock and how much value it would be afterwards. So that was something that caught their mind. Like, they're not realizing that as much as they use Facebook and Twitter and different things like that, that they can actually own part of the company and make money from doing the things they like to do. Then from there, in the exploration phase, from there I tend to focus on doing more things to make those numbers make sense, but it's just allowing them to really manipulate and work with the numbers. So learning stock prices or learning prices of retail items that they might purchase on the regular, and learning how the prices are affected by different sales and promotions that they might have. Just giving students the opportunity to really work with the number, and then tying into that, the integration phase is really similar to that. I always try to use real-world examples, but the integration stage is where you really want to do that. You want to show them that whatever information you use, I'm a math person, so I always try to make it show them that the numbers that we're giving them aren't just numbers. We're not just having them do this because this is part of the Common Core. You have to learn it. It's just showing them that in certain situations you're going to be using these numbers, doing a different type of math, and you're not even going to realize it. And lastly is the resolution phase, where you really summarize things. I try to use this as an opportunity for the learners to really tell me what things they gained from the lesson, not just information, but just ways that they might turn around and use it on their own, or ways that they might have taught it differently. And lastly, teaching presence. This is the need for an architect or designer to lead the social and cognitive processes for the learning to be productive. So here is where, this is kind of a bad example in the picture, and that's probably why I picked it. You don't want to just sit back and call the shots, really. You want to be just as engaged as the learner. So you want to be able to really create a lesson or create content for your students that allows them to think and act. So you want to be just as actively involved in their learning experience as they are. So you want to be asking questions to them while they're also asking you questions, or as they're learning new things, you might be learning new things as well. So you just want to make sure that you aren't like him here in his chair, just sit back, kick your feet up, calling the shots, especially with an online course. You really want to make sure that you're connecting with the students so that there is never a gray area where they're not exactly sure what's really going on. As I mentioned back in the objectives, as I did the reading for COI and the different processes, all the different practices and presences of it, it kind of made me think back to the Understanding by Design template. It's the use of backwards design, with designing curriculum to create lessons with the end goal in mind. So here you kind of start backwards to work forwards, or you go backwards to go forward. So you create your lesson and focus with the end goal in mind, but along the way you are setting up different instances, kind of like the 4 phases, where you're catching their attention with the initial topic. So that would be stage 1, where you're identifying your goals and where you really want things to go. And then from there, you allow the students to really take control of their learning and be able to go out and find information, develop these ideas, and you set up the different assignments, different activities they're going to use along the way. They'll be able to take the new knowledge and the experiences that they've been having and really use that to really formulate their own ideas of what's really going on. And then lastly is the resolution. So you're going to put everything together and make sure that whatever question you started out in the beginning that you want to answer, that you end the lesson with that question, of course, being answered. So for community of inquiry, learning is best when the teacher isn't the only one contributing to the lesson. So you always want to make sure that the students have a chance to interact and really be involved with the information. So even if it's something similar to one day you have each, back to your example of giving every student a different piece of information, you have each group maybe present on one part of a grand scheme of a project. So I'd like you guys to go down to the chat and type some examples of how you've experienced or plan to maybe use in your classroom examples of the community of inquiry and the 3 presences. So I'll also add some to the chat as well. Okay, thank you for your example. So Nancy said, first, have students teach part of the course. That's a good example. That's something I was just speaking on. And idea I had was to give students questions that they must research and come back with the answer to. That's something I tend to do with a lot of my math things. I tend to like give them an equation and kind of like the beginning and the end and try to figure out if they can see what steps there were to take in between. And they go home sometimes and try to like look it up. Of course, sometimes they typically like Google the answers, but even that way they still find the process in between. Create activities that allow the students to first try something on their own before coming in class. I guess that was simple to that example. Bernie said he wants to tie synchronous sessions such as this is part of my online courses, full engagement from both the students and the instructor. Yeah, I agree. Like I was saying, it's very important for the teacher to be involved in the learning of the learner, and not just informing them or not just teaching them, but actually being mindful of how the students are learning. Because as we know, all learners are different, so you want to make sure that you're doing things along the way that really tie into all the students in the class. And lastly, an reflection. So here I have, again, the 3 elements and some of their categories and indicators. So in the email, paraphrase each of the 3 presences and send it to my email by Sunday at midnight. So here, just kind of sum up very briefly how you would describe cognitive presence, social presence, and teaching presence. Send that to an email. That's something I want you guys that are here watching the session live to do, and also those who will be watching it later. For those who will be watching it later, you can send that to me by Tuesday. Here are my resources I used. If you guys have any questions, you can feel free to send me an email, or if you have any questions you would like to ask now, feel free to do so. If not, I want to thank you for your time. I hope that it wasn't boring or I didn't go too fast. But again, thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy your night.